Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Analyst here, and I hope all of you guys are having a good morning, evening, wherever you guys are from, and welcome back to another Bitcoin technical analysis. And today I wanted to talk about both the bearish and the bullish case scenarios for Bitcoin, because it is seriously hanging on by a thread right now. If we're looking at this from the support, it did break below these EMAs once again, and we're going to look at this on a daily time scale so we can get a little bit of a bigger picture of what is happening. But if it breaks this support, it could seriously see some downside, and today I wanted to talk about that and where I believe Bitcoin can go from here. So if you guys are interested, go and stick around for the video, and do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this. Now, I do have two fib retracements actually drawn up right now. I don't want you guys to be confused about this because you guys are probably seeing multiple lines. But yes, I do have two fib retracements up. One from the entire macro of this trend from 2017 to our current price action point from top to bottom. And then, of course, one from our current bottom to our local top that we have up here around almost at $14,000. Moving forward, guys, in the news, there hasn't really been that much. There's been a little bit of stuff with Libra. The news has been pretty stale recently. A little bit of stuff from India, so not a lot of manipulation, I would say, from that sense. A lot of this just has been beautiful technicals playing out, and I think that that is what a lot of people have been excited about. So looking at this from the macro, I do want to bring up a former support line that we've had for a while here on Bitcoin and how it's actually getting used once again. Of course, this is this one that we've had in this macro trend for a while. We've seen numerous touch points around the time of May, even throughout the time of June, and now we're seeing them again in July. So for the past 3 months, we have been seeing this beautiful support line playing out on Bitcoin. But I think that one of the most interesting things for me, and something that people were bringing up in the Discord, is that Bitcoin is very, very tight on its EMAs. I mean, looking at this from a 4-hour time scale, the 50 EMA and the 200 EMA are just on top of each other. And yes, Bitcoin did just actually have a death cross for the first time in a very, very long time. Really more so for the first time in this entire uptrend ever since it's had its golden cross. It has not crossed back to a death cross. So all that a death cross is, and again, it's not as influential on the 4-hour time scale. It's more influential on the daily or the 3-day or something like that. Sometimes you rarely even see this on the weekly. I don't think it's ever seen it on the weekly in Bitcoin, but for stocks and stuff, you can see it on stuff like that. But so on the 4-hour time scale, what I'm trying to say is that it's not as significant as, say, if it was on the 1-day or the 3-day or something like that, because that's where you really get the most influence out of this guy. However, it's still a death cross on the 4-hour, so it still does mean something. It's still not necessarily a good sign to see. This could actually just turn back around, and maybe all of this is contradicted. Bitcoin looks like it's actually getting a nice bounce off of this support line, as I was talking about over here, and that bounce is going to be just around this $9,850 level. Now, this area is significant because if it breaks down below this, it's either going to bounce off this 382 fib retracement, which it looks like it's already kind of doing, because not only do you have the 382 fib retracement here, but you also have this well written up, well developed support line that we've already talked about. So this really would be a good place to bounce. However, it does mean that if it breaks this place, it would not necessarily be a good thing for Bitcoin, because if it breaks this support, I do believe that a new low is coming in here. This would make sense to me. However, you do still have this kind of giant bull flag scenario that you could be kind of painting on Bitcoin. Now, I say that this is a bull flag. It's very... I say that, but it's very confrontational as to whether people believe that this is a bull flag or not, and I understand both arguments of the case. The reason that I think that this could be a bull flag, because this could very well be forming a pennant in an uptrend, which technically is a bull flag. If you have a pennant or a symmetrical triangle forming in an uptrend, they generally are classified as a continuation pattern to the upside, otherwise known as a bull flag. However, this could very well not be a bull flag because of the way that this is forming, and something that someone was highlighting, and I can go ahead and bring up over here, is you now have 1, 2, and this could be 3 lower swing highs, and then you have 1, 2, and potentially 3 lower swing lows. Now, this is a, really kind of a sign that this could be going down to a lower price. If you're seeing constant lower swing highs, constant lower swing lows, it's not a good thing for the overall macro trend. Usually what this could mean is a potential trend reversal. Now, is the macro reversing? Again, I don't think that we can say that until it breaks the 618. I think the 618 is the most common and popular fib retracement on Bitcoin. So until it breaks and breaches this level back below like the 7 or 6,000s, I'm really not too bearish on the macro trend. I think that a healthy retracement like the 618 could be very, very possible, even to the 50% retracement. I think anything below this would make me a little bit more scared, but for the short-term time being, we can still see downside without saying that the macro trend is ultimately sacrificed and we're in another bear market. So I guess in theory you could say that this is a maybe like a little bear market in itself. I think that this is too small of a time scale to even say something like that, because again, this has like been like a month or two, if that. So I think that overall you can't have one bad month in an overall very, very well uptrend of, what is this, like 300, and it was at one point like 300 or 400%. So I don't think one bad month can necessarily say that the entirety of the trend is over. But this is one of those situations where you have to kind of keep a close eye on it, because if you don't, this thing could very well go very bad very fast. And so one of the things that I wanted to explain is that if it does break this 382 fib retracement, it could very well break down towards the downside. Now, this is something I had drawn up in the last BTC technical analysis, and it played out very well. And so now there's really one of two scenarios that can play out. It can actually break this and fall all the way down to, in my opinion, at least the 50% fib retracement, which is about a $1,500 move to the downside. Now, that is a little bit scary. A lot of people don't want to see that, and I understand why. However, it is definitely a possibility. Possibilities can also go down all the way to around 7,200, in my opinion, that being the ultimate low that I would take on Bitcoin before I started getting scared again. And when I say scared, I mean, it could be a continuation in this bear market, or in what was the bear market. Now we're in a bull market. But really the ways that I'm playing this from here is that if it breaks this support, I think that it probably has at least $1,500 to fall. I would say pretty easily at least $1,000 minimum, in my opinion. And I think seeing rejection here is more important than a lot of people realize, because this was former support, now turned resistance, and that's not necessarily a good thing to see on Bitcoin, especially in like a larger move like this. So with former support of like this entirety of the top being turned into resistance and actually seeing a rejection over here, this does actually make me believe, along with the death cross, that this thing could be seeing some downside. So I am actually a little bit bearish on Bitcoin here, and I think that things could get pretty ugly here over the next week or so if it doesn't bounce. Now, if it can somehow hold this, reverse this guy, and actually go back up, I think that the measured move would be all the way to around $12,000 flat, maybe to $12,100. If it can actually see a breakout from here, I mean, there's no reason why it can't touch, previous highs of around $13,150 or even that $14,000 level. I mean, this is what looks to be a pretty nice and pretty large formation. So I would assume a breakout could very well lead to a new high on Bitcoin. However, that just isn't looking probable with the current trend on the 4-hour. Again, this death cross, this former support now turned resistance, rejection, all this stuff that's playing out, it definitely looks like it wants to actually go down to a lower price action to get some more buyers in this guy before it heads back to the upside. So I don't want to make this sound too horrible, too like doom and gloomy, but definitely I would say that the short to midterm isn't looking amazing on Bitcoin. Again, that can all change if it holds the support. I just don't think that it's going to actually hold the support. Right now it's looking like it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think that the probability is definitely leaning towards the downside for the short term time being. Over here on the MACD and the RSI, this is the 4-hour MACD right now. Looks like it's very well setting up quadruple bearish, it's actually setting up quadruple almost bullish divergence over here. So that could definitely be an argument case that Bitcoin is looking to bounce. The only problem I have with something like this is that this is a little bit more sloppy bullish divergence. It's not necessarily something that I would ideally play off of, and it looks like this was just flat triple bullish divergence, and it's already played out, and now that it's actually looking to form some sort of bearish divergence. Over here on the RSI, I think our chart froze. There we go. Over here on the RSI, one of the things that I want to talk about is that I think that this could very well go back down towards this oversold territory of around 30. Now, if this actually bounced off of this 30 or on this oversold territory, then what this would do is set a higher swing low on Bitcoin. And ideally, what this would be telling me is that there's lower levels of negative momentum coming upon a large swing low, which would signify to me that the bears are losing levels of negative momentum upon every swing low. Now, in theory, what that means to me is that the bears are getting progressively weaker on their attempts to bring this down, and thus it would make me more inclined to long or stay in Bitcoin. So again, this is kind of the area that I'm looking for this, and if this was to happen, I think that this would see a nice balance in the price action, and I think it would actually be a pretty bullish thing. The last thing that I want to highlight over here is actually going to be the daily chart. So moving over to the daily chart, one of the things that I want to highlight is the 50 EMA. Now, we're very far from the 200 EMA, and again, the 200 EMA is something that I think Bitcoin really has to hold if it wants to continue in an uptrend and conquer this $14,000 high that we've had this year. But Right now, Bitcoin's really just floating around this 50 EMA, and it looks like it wants to cross down here. Again, we have this symmetrical triangle of sorts drawn up over here, 2 touches on resistance, several touch points on support. You can almost even redraw this guy if you want to. I know some people are going to get kind of annoyed that I haven't redrawn this. Yes, you can redraw this. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. I think the overall point is that this 382 area is going to be the relative level of support. You know, whether the line's up or down a little bit more, again, it's this relative area of around $9,800, $9,900. That's going to be the support level. So if it can hold this guy, you know, again, it's really being indecisive right now, but if it breaks, definitely some reason towards the downside. That would also put Bitcoin below the 50 EMA for the first time since it crossed over it. Again, ever since we've seen this on the daily chart, I think one of the most important things to highlight is that it has been holding this 50 EMA. It broke over, held it here, again, held it over here. It's touched it over here and held it, and then it even saw some support over here until it broke under it. So definitely looks like there could be a little bit of scary times to come. So the way that I'm actually playing this is that if I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So the way that I'm actually playing this is that if the EMAs do end up breaking and do end up starting to move towards the downside, these are really the guys that I'm watching over here. So there's 2 things that I want to make sure that everyone gets out of this, and that is that I am watching the EMAs more so than anything else. And so what I mean by that is the 200 EMA, the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time scale, and then the 50 EMA on the 1-day time scale are really the things that I'm watching. Now, the second thing is, of course, this 382 fib retracement level, as well as this aligned support. This guy is a significant area, and mark my words, if it breaks, I think things could get very ugly very fast if we don't have some sort of like piercing candle action like we've had over in here. So that's pretty much summing up today's episode, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below, because this is definitely a crucial area for Bitcoin and what it needs to hold moving into the future. So again, let me know your guys' comments in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.